This is a special episode of A Toast to Truth, and we are recording live on location at our W Couture. I was trying to get the name in the frame, but couldn't figure that out because that's why I positioned us here. I was like, oh, we could have the name in the background, and then
it's up there.
Yeah, it's way up there, and then it cropped us out. So anyway, we are on location. If you want to see what the boutique looks like, I did a short video on Facebook and Instagram, so you can kind of tour. I am wearing shorts from here, but you can't see the shorts unless I stand up. It'll look kind of weird. And if you saw any pictures from the Get Me Paid Influencer Bootcamp, that dress came from here as well. So I have shopped with Renata for 5-6 years now. So I am a loyal person. Even though I don't like to shop, I do like shopping here because she makes it a little easier. So we'll talk more about that later. So for those of you who are new or watching this for the first time, I know several people were helping me share this. Let me tell you a little bit about A Toast to Truth. So this is my observation of hushed business conversations that deserve a public dialogue. These forbidden truths often lead to mental, emotional, and financial frustration because you don't really know who to confide in. You don't want to share your issues with people because it sometimes ends up on Facebook in a subliminal message. And every episode is either myself doing a solo one or I bring a special guest co-host, someone that I know personally, with the exception of one person. And we talk about the ugly truths of business. And we talk about some of the consequences that we face on that topic. So I want to introduce my guest co-host for this topic. And our topic is My Purpose is Exhausting. And I reached out to Erin specifically for this because I've actually known Erin for years. When I first moved to Houston, I knew one person. It was a friend from high school. And then I met her best friend from college, and we all became roommates. So that was it. That was all the friends I had for like the first year that I lived here. And then I got up on meetup.com, and I was trying to meet different people. And Miss Independent Group, I thought that would be fun. It was geared towards single women. So I would say, okay, that would make me not feel as if I have to have, a boyfriend or somebody with me. And I still remember the party at the game night at your parents' house. I think that was the most fun. As an introvert, you don't really like going out, but I had so much fun. It was like 30 people.
That's everyone's favorite. They always remember at your house? Apparently it was a good time.
It was. I guess because when you get older and when you do things from middle school, high school that were, we thought, it was okay hanging out with your friends, like a slumber party type thing. But when you get older, that type of innocent connection, It does stay with you. And so that's how we met. So the question we're going to explore today is, and I want to be very careful because I worded it a specific way. Why are we not allowed to express when we're tired? So remember that our topic is My Purpose is Exhausting. So I'll let Erin kind of answer that question. Why are we not allowed to express when we're tired?
I think part of it goes along with, really, if you think about it, there's a little bit of an entrepreneur culture. I don't know how or when that started, but it's this idea, this exaggerated idea that when you're your own boss, you're your own person, you can make all the rules, and there's a kind of a glorified side to that. But it's also, you live, eat, breathe, and sleep with your boss as well. So, there's a balance there. But I think that because it's supposed to be this amazing, awesome thing, you don't ever show the other side of it. And frankly, there's a lot of ego wrapped up in it as well. And part of that is I only want people to see me doing good, or to think I'm a boss, or to think that I am all the things that really I think we project in the beginning. I'm going to be my own person, my own entrepreneur, and I can't tell you I haven't made any money, but I've been working like a dog, you know. So I think it's part of the culture you get swept up in and what it is to be an entrepreneur and not realizing, or at least maybe not in the beginning, accepting it isn't what we think it's going to be. And if no one talks about it and if no one says how hard it is, then maybe it's just me and I'll just keep that to myself. And we'll just continue to act like this is, you know, great and fun.
Yeah, I I agree that a lot of people are hesitant to share because they do feel as if they're the only person going through something. For me, for this question, I think when you found your purpose, you're supposed to be so excited about it that to say that it's exhausting or to say that it makes you tired is somehow dismissing the purpose overall.
Yeah.
As if you're not grateful. As if you are saying you wanted something, but now you don't want it anymore. When I think it's just the opposite. I mean, there are a lot of people who wanted kids, and then guess what? Those babies wake up in the middle of the night, they poop, they do all kind of stuff, but it doesn't mean that those parents love their kids any less.
Yeah.
But they can get tired. You know, I have nephews and they wear me out, and I'm just like, leave me alone, close the door, don't kill each other, you know. But it doesn't mean that I don't love them any less or that I wouldn't want to be around them.
Yeah, but there's also that pressure, and I was going to correlate that to kids as well, from moms. You have so many moms that have such angst about, you know, I really just want to get away from my kids for a week or something like that. And, you know, there's all this like shame of how dare you say that? Don't you love your kids? I'm like, yeah, but it's still work. And I want to break from the work that I live at, you know, home. So I think it's kind of the same thing where your business, your passion is your baby. But like you said, it poops, some things are crabby and, you know, you get tired, you're sleep deprived, and you just want a break. It doesn't mean you don't love it, but, you know, we need a break.
And that's the difference between people who have a job and then entrepreneurs. People who have a job, it seems like it's okay for them to turn it off. But if you're an entrepreneur, you must be on at all times, which is, to me, is technically still a job in a sense. You know, even though we created a job for ourselves, we also are hopefully creating other jobs and opportunities through whatever purpose we have been given for other people as well. So for us to have to be on all the time, I said that's why I'm not a fashion blogger, because I feel that they have to be on all the time. And I'm exhausted watching their Instagram feed, just their Instagram feed, because I know how much they would have to do to style the shoot, to shoot it, to find the location, to, you know, edit, all of that stuff. And I just do events, and I'm like, I take pictures, I may edit, I may not, I may put a video together, but I know how much more work there goes into fashion blogging. So I'm like, if I'm exhausted watching, I can only imagine what it's like actually doing that on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and especially if you think about like their personal brand as well. So you never get a down day to say, you know, I'm just not feeling like being fashionable as a fashion blogger. Yeah. You don't get that. That's not a thing. You might do it behind the scenes just for some contrast, you know, but that's you know, plan. That's not what you do.
That's almost like the hairstylist. I know growing up, they always say you could always tell who the hairstylists were because they were always the ones who didn't have their hair together. And they would always say by the time they got through with everybody else's hair, they were exhausted and they don't, you know, feel like doing their own. And people are like, but you're the hairstylist. You're supposed to look a certain way. And so, I mean, I can see the contradiction, but if everybody else looks good, then, you know, they can do, you know, a great job with the hair and stuff like that. So Erin and I are in a similar field. Erin actually does more of the planning and the creating of amazing events. I do some. That's just not my thing. Because it's one of those things where I want to hurt people when things aren't met on time. And I'm just like, you know what? Let me just stick with what I do best. or should I say what I like to do best. So as someone who puts on huge pop-up events, because these are very imaginative works of art. If you follow Miss Independent group and on the what is it called? The blog post, I will have all the links and everything so you can see it. But how do you go from idea to execution and keep all your energy going, keep everything running? I know when you're launching something, there's like a million moving parts. Mm-hmm. And how do you not want to run away in the middle of putting all of these events together?
Well, I do want to run away every single time. Well, the idea phase, I'm just someone who I believe in God and faith, and I'm always asking what's next, and what should I do, and just when you have those moments of like just a spark of genius, or an idea pops into your head, and it's just like it almost kind of gets a hold of you, and it's like I have to do this or I can't do anything else. Like I absolutely 100% can't or don't care about anything but that one idea. It can literally be something, and it has been something so simple as I'll see the outline of someone's website and the color scheme, and I'm like, that would be really pretty in an event kind of environment, and then I can add this, and this, and these kind of foods would pair well, and then it just kind of builds, and then you see that world or that design so distinctly and so clearly that it's real for me at least, and then I feel like it's my job to make it real for everyone else. And that's the thing, is you get so tied to the idea, this world that you've created, and there's always going to be variation, sometimes drastically so, between where you saw and what actually happens. And everything in between is event planning. And so that the in between is the hard part. I am great at coming up with the idea. I'm great at seeing it and visualizing it and thinking through the experience of guests and even vendors and people involved and sponsors. I want everybody to win when I host these events. And there's just so many things that I have no control over thereafter that I sometimes have to just give up control. But as much as I can, I try to say, I'm the person that roped you in. I'm why you're here. I'm why you got in the car, spent your money, spent your gas, got the outfit. Nobody likes to wear this lipstick, and did all that. I want to make sure that you have a good time. And so then that's when you start to really get a little rigid on, no, it has to go this way. This has to be this way. In a lot of ways, that's good to get things done. In a lot of ways, I've had to learn to just calm down, because it's like shaving off my life expectancy. But I think for me, it's something that I almost at times I'm like, why do I have to be so hard at it that it has to be this way? Can I just go get a desk job? I'm really tired. I don't want to do this, or I would rather not plan another big event. The last event that I hosted, the big event, it's called #Girls Night Out. It's the signature event that I host every year for Miss Independent. It was supposed to be a one-time brand launch. That was it. It was supposed to be a one-time event.
Really? Because you were like on number 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think we're on 6 now. But it was, to launch the brand, and we had 115 people come to that event, and I feel like maybe 10% or less actually knew who I was before that day. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but we got to do it again. So, and in that, I think it's evolved and evolved and evolved. And this year, it was a 7,000 square foot space. It was over the course of 3 days. And we took that 7,000 square feet of blank space, by the way, and put a variety of different art, pop-up, interactive art kind of exhibits in it. And even then, like, I drew things out. I planned that one for a year. I was visiting other interactive art spaces to see what's the flow, what's the experience, what am I going for? And even then it was, I got it, it's good. And then it's actually the venue's been changed 2 weeks before. And then it's, this person's not participating. And then you go from, I've been dreaming of this idea for a year.
To putting out fires.
Yeah, to putting out fires. And now you've got 2 weeks and none of the things that you thought were going to happen have to happen. And that's where, when you're saying, like, why is my passion killing me? That's when you have to really ask, you have to almost like redefine, well, what was the goal? What do I want to get out of this? Why am I doing this? that whole process, I always call it forced therapy. That's when you have to really dig deep and say, okay, beyond the fun entrepreneur stuff, this is really what it's about. Problem solving and putting out fires, managing your emotions, managing other people. That's the stuff I don't ever feel like I'm signing up for, but it's part of it.
You mentioned something, you say you plan that particular one for a year. If you're doing something for a year, you're going to get tired. You're bound to get exhausted because you want it to happen, but there's all these little bitty steps that have to take place.
Yeah.
And some people are like more of the visionary, the big picture person. I like looking at the details, knowing, you know what, if we don't get this done today, in 2 weeks, it's going to be a problem. Like, I can always foresee it. People are like, no, everything's going great. And then in 2 weeks, that one thing does become a problem because everything is part of a moving train. So if one thing gets off course, it messes up everything else. And so a lot of times people want to start a business or have an event and they want to have it the very next week.
Mm-hmm.
And in Houston, because I went through it, would Get Me Paid, you know, we were in talks for a venue, then that person, it didn't work out with that person. And so it took, you know, some time to find another venue. And it was just like, you would think a Tuesday, it's a weekday. How hard is it to find a venue? Saturday, you're thinking, oh man, that's going to be a lot of work, a lot of, no, it was very hard. It was very hard because it was, I wanted it inside of the city because I knew so many people were coming from, you know, the Humboldt area, Springs, Sugar Land in the city. So I wanted to kind of make it a little easier for everyone to get there. And then also, guess what happened? That was like the day before it flooded. You know, so it was raining the whole day. So the caterer is literally outside in the rain before we got to the venue. So yeah.
Rain changes everything.
And so it, to me, I can honestly say 2 weeks before, I was just like, I'm over it. Like, I'm so over it. We're going to get through it. We're going to do it. But I'm so over this event. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I don't want to answer any more questions. I don't want to deal with anything else. And then the morning of, I woke up immediately. There were text message, phone calls. You know, people needed stuff. People were somewhere else early, and I'm having to call the venue to get someone there. And so it was just, I was like, you know what? Let me just get up and shower. Like, like, let me just start my day, and then I'll get to everything else. And honestly, I think that was the first event I've ever hosted where I was not stressed out. Even though it was chaotic, we had to start late because of the rain, because everyone was texting, I'm on my way, I'm on 290, I'm on the Beltway, and no one wanted, you know, we didn't want to start. And even the first speaker wanted to wait until everyone was there. So with all of that, and if you know me, you know, I'm very type A. I like to start stuff on time. I like to be respectful of people's time. But I was just very like, it is what it is today. Like, I have no control.
You can get to that point.
Like, there's no control. And everything that led up to it that was stressful, I was no longer like tired. You know, I was energized. I was ready for that day. I think that adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's funny because I started to pay attention to because then when you're in it, you're not really aware. Like you said, there's just adrenaline. It's like a numbness to just do.
Because you have a plan in your head, so you're just following the schedule.
Yeah. I had it where I would, you know, I start to lose sleep close to an event because your mind is just working so much. It just won't let you sleep. So I start to lose sleep, and I might skip a few meals because I'm just not thinking about it. And it never fails that the day of leading up to, it's crazy, but like the moment doors open and there's nothing you can do now but solve any problems that pop up, but the planning part is over, then this wave of exhaustion and hunger and everything come over me. And I'm like, oh my God, I've just been going off of adrenaline this whole time. And then once the pressure's off, so to speak, so much of it, is off, then it's like, oh, God, I didn't go to the bathroom. I haven't eaten a day. I haven't slept in 3 days. But it's amazing how your body is just like, and go, and go, and go, and go. And then when you know, like an animal running in the jungle or something, as long as there's that adrenaline, you got to go. And then the second you're safe,
you pass out.
Oh, yeah.
I sleep so well after an event. Like,
yeah, I sleep for a good 16 hours or so. After, I mean, depending on how much sleep I haven't gotten.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how then it's like, no, I can't function. I'm so tired. But it's amazing what your mind will do to get you through it, though. And even when you look back, you're like, how did I make it through such a stressful event or such a stressful time?
And then you don't even remember half of what you did. You're kind of just weaving through. People are asking you questions. Because I've done events, my very first event was Fusion. And as an introvert, I created that event because I felt it would be easier if people came to me than me going to them to get to know them in business. And I don't even remember the first event, like the details. I remember where it was. It was the Nature Center on Memorial. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous place, very expensive. Don't go there if this is like your first event and you have no budget, because And I remember my sister was like, let's get sushi. I'm like, no one's gonna eat this, and they did. Yeah. But we went all out for that first event. This was our first event. We were trying to make sure that people knew who we were, and 6 people showed up. I didn't know any of those people, not a one of them. But all I remember is, to this day, they all said they had a great time. I don't exactly remember what we did, but they all said they had a great time. So while you're doing stuff, you're trying to remember everything you planned, and then after it's done, you kind of, I forget, which sucks, but
yeah, it's like an amnesia that happens. I don't know if you have the same experience, but like you see the photos, the post-event photos, and like, I don't remember any of that.
Yes.
That was the color? What?
And then I'm like, I'm not in any photos. Like, I literally asked everyone else, like, did anyone get a video of me at the event? And they were like, no. Like, but I have video of everybody else.
No, what's worse is when you're actually in the photos and you swear you didn't take them. I'm just like, wow. Who are you? I've had that happen so many times. I'll see, on their Instagram, things will pop up like, who are you? We look real chummy. I don't know you.
People taking photos.
Yeah, they do, but it's just, you stop and take pictures, you know, and then that the whole thing happens, and then when it's over, it's like, who was that? Who am I? I mean, I'm glad they were there, but I'm glad you said that. I used to get real concerned about like my memory and everything afterwards.
Oh, no, I forget.
Like, I don't remember that. I don't remember being there.
It's like you forget everything, and you feel so bad because people will give you details, and you're just like, well, I'm so glad you remember,
Yeah, it was for you. It was all for you. So I'm glad you had a good time.
What's crazy is when I cover other people's events, I remember all the details.
Well, yeah, it's different.
I know. So I'm like, how does your brain remember everybody else's event and all the details, who wore what? Like, I can remember people, what they had on, and then here's my event, and I'm just like, I don't remember exactly what day it was on. Like,
yeah, it wasn't that time. It was a year. It was a whole. And I think if
I get years wrong and everything.
Oh, really? I think if it's other people's events, there's a level of I'm not 100% like accountable. Of course, it's important that this go well. I'm involved, but it's not my reputation. It's not the same thing. When it's you, I think it's a hyper awareness of like survival.
You have a little wall there.
Yeah.
Now, I know for especially those who are listening as for the podcast, our topic being, my purpose is exhausting. I've noticed this whole team no sleep. Everybody is trying to work 18 hours a day on purpose. Don't know why, but they are. I'm on team get all my sleep. Like, I would sleep 12 hours a day if I could, like a bear, like hibernated. I don't know. I like sleep. But I think you function better when you're rested. And I'm okay not having, missing an event if I'm going to stay home and rest, or going to bed early instead of staying up to 2 in the morning when I know if I get up tomorrow, I can finish that same project in half the time because I got sleep. And so for me, I don't know why people would sacrifice their sleep.
Well, I'm sleep deprived as we speak. I'm very tired. I think I went to bed around 3. For me, it's becoming a habit, though. Okay. It's not 100% that I don't want sleep. It's just I'm more of a night owl. I think part of it is whatever my circadian rhythm is, I do kind of wake up at night / I also then made it a habit. Okay. So it's almost like it might be
body clock.
Yeah, body clock. It might be even psychologically. Not until it gets dark do I really get clear. Like throughout the day, I have bouts of focus and I have bouts of creativity. But at night, that's when I get that steady stream of just thinking. And for me, I would say like around 10 to 1 is when I can actually knock out what would have maybe taken me 4 or 5 hours during the day because I'm so laser focused.
So that's your time.
That's my time. The problem with it is it's starting to go on now because I'm so up and now I'm excited about what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing and the ideas that came to me. Now I can't turn it off and I'm getting to bed later and later and later. So I do try to say that there has to be a balance. So if I don't go to bed till 2, then I'm not going to get up till 9 or 10 or whatever, 7 hours. I just say get 7 hours.
No, yeah, I mean, I get that. If I stay up late, then I'm going to force myself to stay in bed until I've gotten the 8 hours of rest. So for me, if I know there's a lot going on, I'm going to force myself to rest only because last year I was teaching, for those who follow, I taught ESL for 11 years. I was in the middle of teaching and I collapsed on the floor in front of my students, freaking them out, freaking myself out. And that's when I was like, you know what? I've always been very adamant about making sure I got rest. But the months leading up, there was a lot going on. I was doing a whole lot of things that I felt were in my purpose, things that I wanted to do. But at that moment, when I hit that floor, I realized I was beyond tired. Yeah. And I wasn't taking care of myself in the way that I needed to do in order to continue the purpose that I had. So in that moment, I said, never again will that happen, because I honestly could not move for about 10 minutes. Like I was just on the floor. People were freaking out. They were like, do we need to call an ambulance? And I'm just like, I could speak barely. And as soon as I got home, I lost my voice for a week.
Wow.
So that moment for me told me that I needed to really put sleep and rest into my daily practice. I was like, after that, I never want to experience that again. Because it was like, I felt my heart just beating rapidly and stuff like that. But it also made me reevaluate my purpose. And so we're going to talk about that when we get back from taking a sip. While we're taking this quick sip, let's chat about what most women love to do: shop. If you're like me and not one who actually likes to spend hours roaming a store, then RW Couture is the style room for you. As you can see, you have someone who will help you find your style, choose pieces for you, create looks for your next event, and most importantly, take the frustration out of matching the right pieces to create the look. That's right. RW Couture offers concierge services so you can do what you do best and come in to take a look at what Renata has chosen for you. Schedule your private appointment and come in and look around the boutique at 519 North Sam Houston Parkway, Suite 330, Houston, Texas 77060. Take it from me. You don't have to break the bank to turn heads when you enter the room at your next event. Okay, and now I'm going to take a real sip. Okay, so evaluating our purpose, because over time we're going to grow and we're going to evolve as people anyway. I've always known since I was 12 that my purpose is to help people. However, how I help people has changed over time. Now, it didn't click until maybe I was in my 20s. And then it really became clear in my early 30s, understanding purpose.
Yes.
And sometimes your purpose, you don't need to actually monetize. That's one thing that I have learned. You don't always have to monetize the purpose. You can just do it.
Learn the hard way.
Very hard way, right? So everybody's purpose has evolved, but how has your purpose evolved since you figured out what it was?
I feel like I'm still learning what it is, or I guess the latest evolution, put it that way. Initially, I think I was looking at, well, what am I good at? And then that has something to do with my purpose. But then I started to realize that I have certain proclivities that allow me to be good at these things. That doesn't mean that thing is part of the purpose. Maybe it's what allows me to be good at that thing. So like you mentioned, you're introverted, I'm introverted. I always thought that was something that was actually an issue for me, because I was always wanting to do these things that I felt where extroverts excelled. I wanted to be in theater. Well, I was in theater. I wanted to sing and dance and act, but I just thought, but I can turn it on and off. I want to do this all day. But what I'm seeing now is, before that I was writing poetry, and now I'm putting together events, and now I'm doing marketing. So then, what's the purpose? Well, I have to have imagination for all these things, and I have to be able to connect ideas and be able to connect dots. And that is what helps me to connect with people and connect people with other people, or with concepts or events or whatever. And so for me, I started to dig deeper and say, well, then, what's the common thread in that? And for me, it's connection. That's what I do. That's my purpose. How I do that will change, and has changed, and is changing. But ultimately, I feel like being able to make connections for people that can't make them for themselves, or helping them to connect to things, that's really my purpose. And that's what Miss Independent stood for, which was helping women to connect with other women, connect with themselves, connect with the environment around them. Now I've transitioned into doing more marketing, and that's connecting the consumer with the entrepreneur. And I specifically want to work with entrepreneurs right now, women in business. So I think that's my overall, that feels like that's my purpose. It's my passion, is making connections. But to your point as well, what you said before, a lot of times with passion, we'll think, well, then I have to make money, doing it. Miss Independent, for a long time, I was like, this should make money, right? At some point, right? I found a way to get things to pay for themselves. Every now and then I might find a way to get paid, but it was kind of indirectly because of it. But I had to take a step back and say, you're going to frustrate yourself if you're like, why am I not, making X number of dollars per year with this thing? But I want to do it so badly. Well, then great. We'll find a way to monetize your life and allow time, energy, and everything else for this passion. And you can do this, but the two can play well, but you can't continue to think this will be, how you're going to live, because ultimately that is what started to make it feel less right for me, less like it was what I was supposed to be doing. Yeah, because then I was like, well, it's not making money. I'm like, well, it never was supposed to,
My thing is, most of the people who've always told me I needed to monetize something were people who were never doing it themselves. So, word to the wise, don't take advice from people not taking their own advice.
Right. And I've had people also come up to me, and they'll want advice, and they'll say, I love this and I love that. And people are always telling me, you can make a business. Just because you can bake doesn't mean you need to be a baker. Just because you love events doesn't mean you'll burn out that way. You really have to decide if this is the thing that I might have to, for a while, maybe lose a little bit of sleep until I find that balance. If this is the thing that I'm going to be spending money on way before I make a dime off of it, will I still love it like I do right now? And will I still do it for free? Because you're going to.
That's why I don't make brownies.
Yeah.
when I do certain events, I'll bake brownies just so people can, try them because I am the best baker. I hope my nephew is watching that because he tried to do a bake off with me yesterday, but we didn't have all the ingredients. However,
sabotage.
However, people have asked me why haven't I done that as a business? I know personally that if a customer complained, it would be over. Like I would have the worst Yelp review. Like I would be that owner who will go back at the customer and like, excuse me, and go into a tirade because I'm very particular about my brownies. But for me, it's enjoyable. It's how I relax.
Yeah.
It's how I show love to people. Is how I can take out the frustrations of the day or something. It's my happy place.
Yeah.
If you're a dentist, please don't watch. It is my happy place to make brownies for myself and for other people. So I would never do that as a business.
And I feel the same way. I love to cook. And I went through this little phase where I was cooking more often. And I was like, I'm only doing this because it calms me down.
Yeah.
I really just love, because it's a creative outlet. And I always just thought, like, there's no way in ever do this for a living.
Right?
Because now it's work. This has to be just for me. And I feel like one of my dreams is to go to culinary school in France for fun. I don't want to come back and use it for anything. I literally just want to be like, look at me chop, That's it. That's all I want. But yeah, some things you can have a passion and be purposeful in it and care about it. It makes people happy. It makes your nephew happy, but it doesn't have to be something that you monetize. That's a whole other beast, and it's not for everybody.
Yeah, because this is a personal opinion. I feel that you should monetize your skills. Why? Because those are things that you acquire. Those are things that you have learned. And sometimes you can do them without thinking. But if it's something that's really deeply rooted, passionate, you get a little too invested. Like I said, if someone were to say something about my brownies that I didn't want to hear, it would not go well for me and that other person, just because I know this is something I enjoy. So I wouldn't want the critique.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm working with a client and we're working on event story creation for their marketing or something, they can critique, oh, okay, this is not going well. I don't like how this is going. Okay, that has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm not personally invested in, as far as my feelings go, into this story. Right. The story needs to work for the attendees. So if we got to make changes, we have to make changes. So I feel that sometimes your purpose can merge, because I like events. I feel they're a euphoric experience. They allow people to connect, but they also allow you to see someone else's imagination. You get to see what other people thought of, and you get to experience that. So that's why I enjoy working on events. But being a type A person, being very good at project management, my master's is in organizational leadership. Like, those are skills that I have learned. So when I'm working with someone on an event, it's work. Like, it's not a personal thing. So I do understand I have to watch my tone because I'm very direct, but it's not you're doing this, you're a horrible person. It's not that. It's like, you have a goal and I want to help you get to that goal. Yeah. So that means we need to stay focused. If I got to stay on you to stay focused, and I'm going to stay on you to stay focused.
Yeah. It's like you pull from a different, resource or whatever. Yeah. And I think the give and get is a little bit different as well. Because, when it's your passion, it's more fluid and fun and exciting, and you're not really overthinking it. But when, like you said, when you're working with someone, you're meant to give me your ideas, and we're collaborating. Yeah. There's nothing personal about this. We have a problem or opportunity, and we're trying to find an adequate solution. And that's all that is. So, yeah.
I agree. And so when I was 12, like I said, my purpose, I knew, was to help people. And I tried to explain that to family. No one got it. Like, everyone kept thinking I was crazy, and they were like, what is she talking about? And as I got older, everyone's like, you really did foresee your future. I don't know where it came from. Like, that was a revelation God gave me. I have no idea to this day how I was so clear. because I would tell people what I was going to do. And over the years, I've done it. And so I was talking to a friend the other day, well, texting the friend, and I'm like, dreams. I was like, I see things in dreams that are crazy. And it's not always about me. I see things and then I'll see something on the news or I read something and it's exactly what I dreamed about. And I'm like, it's so freaky. Like,
for me, they're never dreams. It's like random thoughts. Like I'll see something and it's almost like I'm not paying attention to the thought. Like it comes to me and I'm like, that's not something I would say or think or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, it's, I hate this so much. And I know other people have experienced this as well. But I'll have little ideas like I think it was like a Missy Elliott song, like "We Run This" or something, and it was just the little kind of big band at the end.
Okay, the beat,
yeah, the beat, and I was like, you know, what would be so cool is if someone like recreated like a battle of the bands and got some staging and had like people on there, and it would have to be like what was I thinking? It was like a big production, and I saw it, and I was thinking about it, and then of course what is it? The small little thing Beyonce came out with. Homecoming came out, and I was like, again, like I hate because I'll never get credit for that. But I'll see things, or I'll even hear like songs that don't exist, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool, and that's cool. What if I put these two together, and then like a few years later it'll come out, and it's so weird how it happens. It's not even like I'll miss it. It's very acutely aware. Like, remember that song you thought of? It exists. You didn't write it. You didn't have credit. But yeah, I have little things come up. Thank goodness now I'm in a position to, like with events, I can make that happen. But a lot of times I'll just see things pop up in culture or books, or it's usually in the creative space where it's like, I had that idea and that's how it looked.
But you know what I had to learn? Sometimes the ideas we have are not for us.
I was like, stop giving away my stuff. But it's like, if there is like a muse, it's just going. I mean, maybe you tapped into that frequency and you kind of like intercepted the message that was going to somebody else.
Because I've had people say that I've said or done things that confirm something for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll go up to someone and I'll just say something random. For me, I'm like, it's random because I don't know why I'm saying this to this person. But it's confirmation for them. Yeah. So it kind of, that was one thing, because I used to get upset too. I was like, man, I could have been rich. Like, I thought of that. But I also realized that some people, and this was something that I was told, some people aren't as courageous to go after their ideas. Like, they'll have them, they'll sit on them, 5 years go by, someone else has it, and then they're just depressed.
Mm.
And so when I said I was going to start blogging in 2011 again, after taking a break, because I went to grad school, I said, I'm going to make money. Everyone thought I was crazy. I had family members say, you should probably, stick with teaching and, all these things. 6 weeks later, I got paid. I said I had a plan. I was focused. I was like, I understand not many people are getting paid yet for blogging, but I'm going to do it. Yeah. That moment, and then creating Fusion, several people started businesses because they said they now have the courage to act on their idea. So for me, that was purposeful. Even though I don't do Fusion anymore, the 3 years that I had it, the purpose of me helping those people gain that confidence. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I'm not someone who will hold your hand. I'm not someone who's going to encourage you in a way where it's like, yes, Erin, you can do it. That's not me. Mm-hmm. I'm more of like a very strict coach who will cuss you out, like, Erin, get there, like you can do it, Mm-hmm. But I realized those events helped those people, and it was in a way that I could still do it in a receptive way that they received it.
Yes.
So that was part of the evolving of me helping people. And so now I'm at the stage where I'm flat out, I was like, I'm not helping anybody who doesn't want to help themselves. Like, if you're coming at stage 1, I'm not for you.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do bare bones. I cannot do the beginning. I cannot do startups, because those people need their hand held. And I'm not qualified to do that. I'm gonna be very honest. I'm not qualified to hold people's hands because I don't have that patience.
Yeah, and I'm learning that too with wanting to market and work with women in the early stages of entrepreneurship specifically, because I feel like that's where we make so many mistakes, but also that's where it's so important that we get our head right first.
And
like
you need
the
a
money
certain person.
Yeah, the money can come, but you got to get your head right. And so I've had a few frustrations, and then I have to really just sit with myself, like, what did you think? And I'm realizing, even though I'm just going to, do your marketing, they're coming to me and it's like, actually, here's a branding problem. Actually, here's a messaging issue. And they just kind of lump it all together and say, that's marketing and that's now you. But it's like, well, do you want to support and help these women at the most pivotal, crucial part where they probably don't have it together yet? And like you said, in terms of like your passions making me exhausted, sometimes I think even when you're being molded to go to whatever your next level is, that's when you start to bump up against and see, this is where I have some growth I need to do. Yeah. Patience. I was always like, I'm the most impatient person in the world. And people are always like, you're so calm. And I just don't want to get upset about it. But that's patience. I don't call it patience because I'm still impatient in other ways. But there's a lot of things that I think as you go and grow and learn and everything, it's like you'll master this at this level. And then it's like, great, there's more money up here. Yeah, you're not ready yet. So now you've got to go through that phase. So it's a constant evolution. But I'm like you. There's so many things in my job today that I swear last year, and I always say this, like, it's good to have new problems sometimes. Because it's always good. That doesn't feel that way, but it means that you've progressed and gotten to a level that you could not have withstood before because you weren't that person yet. So sometimes it will feel like, this is exhausting, it's hard, this and that. And like, well, what have you been asking for? What have you been praying for? Well, if you could have already had it, you'd have it. So there's something you have to be that you're not yet. And now you have to go through this process, this pruning process, I call it, to go to that next level. So it's exhausting, but I think it's something that we also don't talk about a lot, is that growth and how growth is necessary and you're not doing anything wrong. And there was no way to get around it or predict it. It is part of it.
And growth can be exhausting too.
It's very exhausting.
I'm in it right now.
Me too.
And I would say it started after I collapsed on the ground, and I couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't go to work, couldn't do anything, laying in bed for a whole week. So I had nothing to do but think. Yeah. Because I was too tired to even watch TV. Like my eyes were tired. Like every part of my body was exhausted. So all I had time to do was think. And that happened in March. And so what is this now? October. So about a year and a half, I've been, I don't want to say growing, but evolving. Yeah. I've been shedding things that I wanted to hold on to so tight. I thought these were near and dear to my heart. These were things that I felt were part of my purpose. Mm-hmm. Like he said, when you had, you still have it, Miss Independent Group, you weren't looking to monetize it. But when I had a group, that was not my focus to monetize the group. The focus was to help people in the group monetize, And so, but constantly people were coming at me, why haven't you done this for the group? Why haven't you done that? Why haven't you monetized? Because the group was not for me to be on a pedestal. The group was not for me to make money from. The group was a conduit. Mm-hmm. And so when people don't understand your purpose and you're constantly battling other people, which you shouldn't be, we'll get to that in a moment, it's exhausting because now you're not only trying to do what you are supposed to do what you want to do. Now you're having to try to explain and move people into the direction of agreeing with what the purpose is. And you also have to understand that some people are going to have friction with your purpose because it doesn't align, but they may not want you to do it for whatever reason as well. So it was a very exhausting battle for a few years, going back and forth trying to explain to people, this is my vision for it, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to help people. Well, why would you do that? I would never do this. Blah, blah, blah. Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Okay, but are you going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Then everybody gets quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you start asking who's going to pay for it, all of a sudden, oh, that's your thing. That's your, thing. You can do it.
Who's going to pay for it and who's going to help me?
Yes.
That's when they get quiet too.
That's, and so that's where it becomes exhausting, because everybody has ideas they want to contribute, and you don't want to say no all the time, but you don't want to exert yourself in a way where you're giving all of your time away and all of your energy away, to the point where, and you guys can read the blog post, I wrote a blog post, 3 signs you outgrew your community. And one of the signs I said was you start resenting people. And I got to that point where I was resenting when people would ask me to do something, because I knew asking means, Vernetta, you do it.
Yeah.
And then we all share the reward of the work that Vernetta was doing. And the moment I would ask for any type of support, then I was being mean.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, I don't know how Vernetta is supposed to manage a full-time job, my own blog, a blog group, family, other things that I have going on. And I'm supposed to take on your idea, which I don't even see, but you say it's a great idea.
Yeah, I learned that early. And I've gone back and forth, and it's not that I don't care. It's just that I feel like my instinct and gut feeling has gotten me pretty far without asking, what do you want to do? So I've done surveys, and it never really seems to fail that when I do surveys and then I make decisions based on those surveys, I never get the outcome that I want. But then when I say, I'm just going to do it because I think it's a good idea, those are the things that work really well. So in the very beginning with Miss Independent, this is when we were starting to get into more volunteer community service. And I had, we were approached by Habitat for Humanity, who we worked with for a number of years, to do our first build with them. So you had to fundraise for the construction material, and then you go and then you actually build the homes. It was specific to Women Build. So it was a women's initiative for single mothers. So, got behind it. We had this lunch, and, who wants to participate and who wants to volunteer and who's up for the fundraising efforts, right? And I didn't know. I just assumed people say they're going to do it, they do it. So I set everything in motion, and then I got no help, and I'm on the hook, and I'm on the line, and I've committed this money and all these things, and I got very resentful, and it reflected in a lot of the emails I was sending, like, just the weekly updates. And someone responded back to me like, this isn't a sorority. We don't have to, do dues and do this and do that. And I'm like, you were one of the ones that said you wanted to help. And I had to realize, one, I got to let people off the hook. That's the nature of people. That's not her. That's the nature of people.
That was hard for me.
It's very hard, but I'm like, once you realize that they don't even mean to do it, people will always overcommit, and people are excited about the vision because they see it. But the work that has to go to make it happen, that's why some people do and some people talk, or some people contribute ideas. And I've always realized that 80-20 rule applies to everything.
It almost feels like a 90-10 rule.
Yeah.
But we'll keep with the 80-20 because it's easier to say.
Nice. No, but I mean, I had to learn that. And like you said, I've decided this year, actually, because I made a lot of decisions on the last event that we have based on surveys. And I was in that resentful place where I was like, I did all this work and I gave you what you wanted and I didn't get the results I wanted. And I'm like, have you ever asked them before what they wanted? No, you just planned and they gave.
Okay, so see, this is exactly why I have Erin as the guest, because we have the same mindset. I would plan. Well, I didn't want that. But then when I would ask, and then I would do what they would ask, they didn't want that either. Because they didn't know they didn't want it until
They saw it.
They saw it.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother of the whole letting go. Because you're just like, I just spent all this time, energy, money.
Yeah. You just gave them clarity.
Yes.
You didn't, you just gave them clarity. Unfortunately, it was after.
Yeah. So we have a comment from Danica where she says, problems, challenges give you an opportunity to grow. I agree. She said her son grew up so fast as a child that he had growing pains all the time. There's pain with growth often. I agree because, well, Danica, you know me. There's been a lot of pain with this growth.
Yeah.
But I also felt that it was a little bit of immaturity on my part.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was taking things personally when I shouldn't have. Like, if Erin decides she doesn't want to follow through with the idea that she came up with, why am I upset about that? Because it wasn't my idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could be mad at, okay, I invested time, but I can rethink it. What did I get from the time that I invested? What can I walk away and use for the next project, the next group, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of rethinking how I look at situations. And so, you know, for the longest, people thought I hated a group of people. I don't hate the group. I was resentful at the time, but I also realized that I was elevating and they were just coming to the place I was. Mm-hmm. And so it's very hard to force people to skip levels.
Yeah.
And I had to come to terms with that. And so with that growth, I've had to really think about how I talk to people moving forward. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say if people are at the beginning or startups, I already know.
Yeah.
No, I can't help you because I know I'm not the right person to help you.
Right.
And then you also have to be mature enough to know who you can help and who you can't help.
Right.
Who you're assigned to help and who you are assigned to refer to someone else.
Yeah, and that's something you will definitely learn. And the thing is, I don't think we've ever worked with anyone where we were misaligned and we didn't know it right off the bat.
That is so true.
Yeah, you always know it. You always get the inclination. And there's almost even like a moment like, are you sure that you're sure that you're sure? Because they're running a little late and you can really back out right now. And you go through with it. And like you said, sometimes you're not there. And it's not a wrong or right. Nobody is good or bad. It's just about alignment. Sometimes you're not ready, prepared, mature, have your systems in place. Same can go for them. And, you know, I've had those times where I thought, well, this will get me ready. You know, if I say yes, I'll figure it out. I used to figure it out until you got to say yes to 3-4 different people that you're trying to do all this figuring for. And now you're overwhelmed and you're like,
that's exhausting. Trying to think for other people.
Yeah. And you did it. You had an opportunity to say no, and you always feel it. You always feel it before you give that reluctant yes. You always feel it.
You do. You do, because it's like a why? Yes, I would do that. And now you're like on the hook. But see, one thing I've noticed, if you are a reliable person and you say yes and then you don't follow through, then you are the worst person. If you are an unreliable person and you say yes and you don't follow through, there's no consequence. They're okay. And so for me, that was very hard to grasp. If I were to tell someone, no, I can't do it, I'm too tired. Well, why? You know, it's like, is it okay if I take a break? Is it okay if I say no? But if you ask someone else and they say no, you're totally okay with it. So I had to really dig deep and figure out, okay, number one, I am reliable. I am dependable. And even if I don't want to do it, I'm going to finish it because I don't want to not finish a project.
Right.
However, it was a preacher, a pastor who told me, you don't always have to finish everything you start. Sometimes you are to start it and pass it off to other people. Mm-hmm. And one reason I was always tired is because I would be the one to finish.
Right.
Even if it wasn't my project, I would be the one to finish. And I realized, like, dang, Renee, like, you just spent 2 months on this other person's project. You didn't create content for your blog. Now I'm having to create all this content for my blog that I didn't have. So now it's like I'm running around trying to figure out what it is I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm there too. That's why I'm tired, because I finally did my own post yesterday. But it's challenging. But I've had times definitely where I am a reliable person. I am a finisher and a doer and all these things. And then I started to notice where I wasn't being reliable. And I took it so hard because I was like, it means you don't care and it means you're not responsible. And I'm like, no, I've just taken too much on. And I'm not willing to admit that I've taken too much on. So rather than say, I can't, I just, I just won't sleep for a few days because it means so much if I actually can't do something. And I think that's an admission to myself that I didn't want is, yes, this is your limit and you reached it.
Well, I know people like that. And I have told them, I'm like, I think you have too much on your plate. Sometimes they get upset because they feel that I'm dictating what they are capable and not capable of, instead of me seeing that they're drowning with everything that they have. Because I try to be observant of other people, especially if we're going to work together on a project. I'm like, tell me what you have going on. Why? Because I want to know if you have the time, if you have the capacity, because we can't determine if a sick relative or, there are certain things you can't predict. So you always kind of have a play in case something like that happens. But if someone is trying to do a million things, I usually won't add them on my team. Not anymore.
Yeah.
After I had a really, really, really challenging time with someone who just continued to say yes, but then fell through when it was time for that person to deliver on things we were working on. So for me, if I know that you don't have the capacity, you don't have the time, or you're just not qualified, I'm not going to add you to projects that I'm doing. And that was one thing that I guess from a teacher, I can kind of see, educator, I can kind of see certain things. But that's another whole discussion when you have to tell someone you're not ready for this yet.
Yeah. Or maybe not now,
Yes. And they get offended as if you're saying they're not good. And you're not saying they're not good. You're saying you're not ready because you already know the challenges that are going to come, the ones that you can see.
Right.
So you're already preparing yourself mentally, maybe financially. You know what? Let me stock a little extra money because something may come up.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to protect other people, right?
Yeah.
I had to learn that I can't be responsible for other people's consequences to what they agreed to do. I can't protect people from doing the things that they want to do. And that was hard for me because I don't want to see other people get hurt, especially if I know it is preventable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was very hard for me. And it came off as overbearing and bossy and all of these other things, but it was also exhausting. Trying to prevent other people from getting hurt, other people from looking incompetent, other people from not putting their best foot forward.
Yeah. I understand
that. Okay, so I know we've had I've tried to read some of the questions in the comments. The skipping levels, that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because in my mind, if I'm here, then I want everyone else around me to be here too. And if I need to do X, Y, Z to get you there, I'm going to do it without realizing I did X, Y, Z for myself to get there. They have to do X, Y, Z for themselves to get there. It goes back to what I was just saying about being not wanting other people to hurt, not wanting that. And so I know I come off harsh and direct at times, but I do care because I don't want to see other people get hurt if I can prevent it.
Mm-hmm.
But just like parents have to do, sometimes you have to let your children, you know, walk and fall by themselves when they're learning to walk. Or, you know, what my mom used to do for my sister, I'm sorry, to my sister, she would let her ride her bike and crash into the wall of the house because that was the only way my sister knew how to stop, even though my mom kept trying to teach her to push the brake on the bike. So my mom just let her, she said after a while, she's like, she's going to not want to crash into the wall anymore.
Right.
Guess what? She learned how to put that brake on the bike and stop. But that comparison, that helped me realize, like, you know, sometimes I have to let people crash into the wall.
Yeah, they said words don't teach anything, experiences do, something like that. Where I've thought about this with, and I think it's just, again, our nature, where we will read and read and read and read and think that all the research that we've done is a way to buffer or prevent entirely us ever making a mistake. But you making a mistake will be part of how you eventually have these successes. It is part of your learning experience. And it takes you, losing money or having the wrong partnership or whatever for it to be so impactful that you then use those lessons to not do those things again. And you can read it all you want. And I'm sure many of us have read some great advice we didn't take because we had to go through the experience yourself. And I mean, even this year, I always think about when I said sometimes it's good to have new problems. Sometimes when I'm having new problems or new experiences, I always think, what did I ask for this year? Like, what were my goals? And how can this in some way play into that in a way that I would never have wanted, but I am really still getting what I asked for? And for me, it was around money. I want to make more money. This is the year I want to break past the cap I had. And I actually ended up losing a lot at one time. And it was horrifying and scary. And I realized so much of my value and worth is wrapped up on how much money I have and this and that. And in going through that experience, it made me realize what my limiting beliefs are about money. It made me realize why I haven't made more because of those limiting beliefs. And it also showed me where I got those ideas from, how that's still showing up in my life and those influences and how I need to, get around that. And because of that, I was able to kind of dig myself out of that hole and see things differently. And then without even thinking about it, when I started to give quotes, I was quoting far more than I had before. And people were just paying it. Like no issues at all. And I was like, I wonder if that was always possible, but I never would have done it had I not gone through this process and learned to not only value me more, but the skills that I have and to not worry and wonder about, will they pay it? Is this too much or whatever? Are you not worth it? Well, this is the price. But it was this whole thing. And I always think, like, I've read so many books about money and so many, this is how to set your price and all these podcasts. I listen to all that. Mm-hmm. But I had to go through something and I got it. And I got it quick and I got it for good. And then that's when things start to shift and change. So sometimes, you have to kind of let people hit their head against the wall a few times and be like, that's hurt that you're experiencing. And you're going to remember that so much more than you're going to remember me telling you not to do it.
And also, not just, I have to, and I'm talking about me personally, I have to take my hands off of trying to help people who haven't asked for help. Mm-hmm. Because they may have to go through their own experience. They may have to go through or to do something or to try something. I think people who have my type of personality, we don't like people to try new things because we don't want them to be disappointed. But we try stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. It's okay for us to be, risk takers because we know we can handle the fallout, right? But we know if someone is sensitive, we don't want them to take the risk because we're like, we don't want them to be hurt. They're going to be devastated. It's going to affect them and all of these things. Seeing some of the people from the group after, a lot of them are no longer blogging, which is a little sad because a lot of them had really, really, really great blogs. Or at least I thought so. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. But I thought they had great blogs. And a very, very small percentage of them are actually still creating content. So maybe hands off allows some of them to flourish and to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But it also showed me that some people can only function if they have hands on. And that's not good for either person, me or for them.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself, all these, for everyone who's listening, all these things I'm sharing, they're very exhausting activities because you're constantly monitoring other people. It's almost like watching toddlers. You know, you don't want them to get hurt. You don't want them to go under the sink. You don't want them to touch the stove. You don't want them to go into the bathroom by themselves. You don't want them to touch a pen. You're sitting there watching them. You're like, nap time, and for some reason they have this extra burst of energy when it's time to go to sleep. I'm not comparing adults to toddlers. What I'm saying is when you are part of a group and you're on the leadership, you want the very best, or you should want the very best for everybody who's in the group, right? And if you see them going off course, you're there to correct them. However, what you said, it makes sense. Sometimes you have to let them course correct themselves. Right. You have to let them hit the wall, even though you don't want them to hit the wall,
I've also learned, unfortunately, I learned this in like relationships. I'm out of the fixing game now, but
I think a lot of women are.
Yeah, I'm like that. But what I had to learn was I don't know what you need. And so I am assuming that my help is truly helping you when I actually don't know what areas in your life need to come up or what revelations you might get from this experience when things don't go well that is going to better benefit you. So it's something I saw it in relationships, but I've been able to translate it to business where I've had people earlier on, because I used to teach Pilates and I was personal trainer and Pilates instructor for a good 9 years. And I knew that I loved what I did, but I got resentful because I was never working out anymore because my schedule was full. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I was always working out my clients. And people would tell me, like, you're so talented, you're so good at what you do, but you're just so angry. And I'm like, because I'm tired from doing this. But what I didn't realize is that I didn't value me enough. And around money again, I got to work all the time. I got to be on all the time. I got to have no days off, and I got to hustle. And I really believed in that. And that was making me tired and making me not love what I used to love. But that, them telling me that, I appreciated it, but they didn't really give me that until much later. They just kept paying and coming and just kind of, we'll make excuses. And it wasn't until they said it, I'm like, man, I really wish I'd have heard this sooner. Yeah. Because I could have changed some things sooner. But that helped me to grow to hear the truth rather than have someone kind of call on me like, oh, you're just having a bad day for a few years. I needed to know that. And it made me reevaluate what I was doing, and I had to back off of some things. And eventually I had a business in my house where I had my own reformers. Then I went to just manage at a gym. And unfortunately, they worked me, like a dog as well. I still had some things to clean up. But for me, I've always learned so much more from that just blatant honesty, but still you go figure it out. I'm not going to tell you that you just have a nasty personality, because I don't know that you really care about what you're doing, but you care too much and you're not really valuing yourself, Yeah. So sometimes you have to allow people to figure out what they even need and not come to the conclusion that you figured it out for them and now you're going to fix them.
Yeah, I would say if I were to sum myself up, it would be control freak. Mm-hmm. Because I feel if I could control everything, it's going to go as close to according to plan as possible. But if I allow other people, then I have no idea what's going on. But what you really said about we're offering help and we don't know what they need, that really, that's something that kind of hit with me right now, because we aren't just assuming. And when we assume, that's more energy and effort than is necessary for us to do or be for anyone else. I really like this topic. Not only because you're giving a lot of good stuff, that last part, it's probably for me, for me personally, but from a religious standpoint, purpose is thrown around. People try to say it with scriptures and, the Bible and all of these things, right? And it can be overwhelming to people who don't fully understand what purpose means. We didn't really define what we thought purpose means. So I want us to kind of define for people so that they can kind of understand what they think purpose means. So I'll let you go.
It's a big question. To me, purpose would be, I feel like it's almost like a common theme in your life, whereby all the things that you are just naturally drawn to, good at, skilled in, are meant. And so that may or may not be, like we said before, a job, but it is the common theme for which you were meant in this life. And that can be service, and that can be support, that can be a business, that can be children, it can be a lot of different things. But I just feel like all things are just kind of pointing you in this direction to do whatever that thing is. I don't even know if that made sense, but that's how it sounds in my head. Yeah.
For me, purpose is ease. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to force it. You don't have to prepare for it. Mm-hmm. One day you just walk into it and you have this feeling of, this is what I'm supposed to do. You don't have to always monetize it. Please, let's make sure we understand that. You don't always have to monetize your purpose. And I heard this from a pastor once. Your purpose could be just to say something kind to someone else, and that person may go and change the world. But they will always remember that you were the one who said that one thing that they needed to hear. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I see people get frustrated with purpose, and I'll put it in quotation marks, because it's not as big as someone else's.
Oh yeah, or exaggerated and dramatic.
Yes. Yeah. So I use that example because if I were to say, Erin, you are the greatest person, and then Erin goes and changes the world, and she remembers that one thing, then I did what I was supposed to do. And it was, easy for me, no friction, no anything. And I felt good about it. Mm-hmm. But purpose is not, everybody doesn't need a platform for their purpose. Everyone doesn't need the spotlight for your purpose. Sometimes you are a background person, and that's very hard for this society where everyone wants to be on camera. Mm-hmm. I don't like being on camera. If we're honest, I think I said it earlier. I'm usually in my pajamas, so to be on camera means I got to get dressed up. That's work, Yeah. Or at least put on a top or something. Yeah. But I've said it multiple ways, multiple times. We have to know what our roles are in life and be okay with that.
Yeah. I never intended to be on camera. I never intended to be in the foreground. I really wanted to be in the background. That's where I'm comfortable. But I'm open, and obviously it didn't work out that way. But there's a lot of merit to you being that person that's behind someone that is in the foreground. It's a weird thing, but whatever. It's kind of interesting if you do it. You watch a movie, sit there and watch them roll the credits from beginning to end and see all the people that were necessary to make that hour and a half possible. And you don't know their names, and you might bump into them on the street, and you'll never be like, oh my gosh, can I get a picture with you? Can I get a selfie? But they were no less relevant and important to the creation of that picture. And for whatever reason, especially if it's a great movie, I just sit there and I'm like, look at all these people, this team, this tribe, this community of people that came together so that we could see maybe 3 or 4 people acting. It takes so much, but everyone has a role to play. Everyone has a purpose in that role, and it may not be as dramatic and exciting, but understand also to the person that's in the foreground, the person that is being seen, the weight is heavier, the responsibility is heavier, the challenges are heavier. There's some things, be grateful that that's not who you were meant to be. Maybe you don't ever want to have to deal with some of the things that some people have to deal with when they are in the limelight, so to speak.
And you may not even realize it. Like I like to use the example of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. How Jobs is flamboyant, and he was on stage, and he always put on this theatrical performance when Apple was releasing something new, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where was his partner? No one ever really saw him. But who was the one who actually did most of the work behind the scenes?
Right.
His partner. Steve Jobs couldn't really be on stage because he didn't have all the technical skills that Steve Wozniak did.
Mm-hmm.
So they both together complemented each other. And when I see some people get upset because they don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, or they're not as popular as someone else, I'm like, do you know what your role is in life?
Yeah.
Because the moment you realize what your role is, that stuff is irrelevant. It is not something you're going to chase. Like being a blogger, everybody wants 1 million followers. That's what they assume. I don't care if I have 1 million followers or not. I like posting stupid memes. I like taking cracks at, myself, posting crazy stories. To me, I get more connection and engagement from people just being who I am than I would if I were to have a million people. Because if I had 1 million people, I would get the critiques. Well, your hair is not this. You're not doing this. You should probably dress like this. You probably shouldn't wear that lipstick. I don't want that. Like, I want to be able to get on my Insta stories and cut up and, look like I just woke up and, or I think I was doing something one time, and my youngest nephew, he was like crying because he couldn't get something. And someone's like, is that a kid crying in the background? But it wasn't from a judgmental place. They were like, man, that's real. Like, y'all are real. I'm trying to do a story. I can't stop it because I wanted to get this particular thing out and I didn't want to reshoot it. So, of course, you're going to hear some, crying in the background or whatever. I'm saying all this to say you really have to understand, number one, what purpose means, what your purpose is, because if you're operating out of it, that's when you get exhausted. So we were sharing a lot of things where we were forcing ourselves into roles and positions and not allowing ourselves to be in our zone of genius, be where we're meant to be. We're everywhere else.
Yeah, it's very easy to get distracted. I think I was talking about this today, actually, where it's okay in the beginning to use what you see because it's already manifested, basically. To see what other people have done, to get an idea, to maybe even be inspired. It's good and it's okay and it's normal in the beginning. But once you have got more of a awareness of what you want to do and you're a little bit more confident, now it's time to, challenge yourself and see what you want to do. And the problem is for so many people, they use their framework that they see other people do and then they never get off of it. So it's like, okay, this strategy doesn't work anymore. Now I need a new strategy. Now I need a better strategy. Now what are you doing? Now what's the new platform? Now what's the new this?
That's why people are tired.
Yeah, and it's exhausting because you're being, first of all, there's just no common theme for you. It's whatever you saw first. But
you're chasing.
And when you're not allowing yourself to be led, it's exhausting. When you purpose, for me, or at least the things that I feel like I am supposed to be doing, there's always a pull. And I always think, am I pushing or am I pulling or being pulled right now? Am I being pulled as in led to do this? Or am I pushing because I want this to happen because I saw somebody else do it? Or it's the new thing, whatever. And it's always going to be so exhausting. And it never fails that when you align yourself with what you're supposed to be doing, there's an ease. That's when people come out and things line up and it's just easy. And then it's like, okay, but this person's doing this thing, so I'm going to go do this now. And now there's challenge after challenge after challenge. And there's all this, frustration that really isn't necessary because you gotten out of your purpose. You've been misaligned. So it's totally fine in the beginning to at least get an idea when you have no idea, maybe what you're doing. You're looking for inspiration, but it's just that it's inspiration. You can't live and breathe and die by what the bloggers are doing. And I had to make that distinction. I think at the beginning of the year, I was like, you're either influencer or business owner, but you're not about to be both of these things because they have conflicting goals. And
people have that is so true.
Yes.
So true.
So once I got that helped me out so much because I was trying to, marry the two, Ms. and Erin. And I was like, no, they're separate. So are you going to do twice the work to keep them both going, or what are we going to do? Well, which of these things meet your goal this year, which is to make more money? Well, and then that made the decision for me. But it took me asking myself the right questions instead of looking to see, well, what is everybody else doing? And I'm like, you're not doing brand deals. You're not interested in doing brand deals. You're not interested in being bound to these contracts and these guidelines and all these other things. So, what do you really want? Do you want the brand deal, which is just you being contracted to work for someone else here and there? Or do you want to go make your own money and it's consistent? And they're two separate things. But I didn't get that until I stopped, looking at what everyone else was doing.
And I stopped being an entrepreneur because I thought that was way too much work. And the moment that I put the effort and energy into the blog and I used the phrase paid event blogger, which a branding coach, Jay Stone, she gave me, within a month, I started working with Gumroad and then Cirque du Soleil. I got on that team as well. So the things that I've always wanted to do, they just, I don't want to say magically appear, but it was ease. Yeah. It was much in ease. And like what Danica is saying, she said, people will ride you until you remove your saddle. That's so true. And purpose is a journey that your life was designed to take, which I agree. And when you're discovering your purpose, I don't think you should have a spotlight. Because this is a time where you're like a fish out of water. You're really trying to get comfortable in it because sometimes you may be that introvert, but your purpose is so great that you have to get comfortable with that responsibility. Mm-hmm. You have to get comfortable with that burden. Like for people who become preachers and then people who become pastors, they're not the same. They're not the same. And if you're a woman pastor, like I have a woman pastor, I pray for her all the time because I've worked at church, at a mega church, and I know how crazy it is behind the scenes. So to imagine being a woman in a industry where women aren't really supported in that type of way, but knowing that's her purpose, that she's being pulled because a lot of amazing blessings are happening for her and the church, but you're going to have friction. So not saying that just because you're on, operating in your purpose that you're not going to have challenges, that you're not going to have obstacles. Yeah. You're going to have them harder because there's going to be forces that don't want you to do that. Because if I were to have something horrible happen to me, and I became a better person, and I never said, Erin, you're the greatest person. Erin may not go and become that great person that she's meant to be. And then that means the people who were going to be inspired by her are not going to be inspired. So I feel that if we're not operating in our purpose, then it's going to affect other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one's an island. Yeah. Everything and everyone is connected. And I had a theory about that. I can't remember what it was. If you try to lose weight or anything in any way, when you try to improve your life, that's when all hell breaks loose. Mm-hmm. And not a moment too soon. Everything is fine as long as you're good with where you are, as long as you're not really trying to achieve anything. The moment you become a threat, so to speak, or the moment you decide to better your life and other people now stand to be impacted by those decisions, those when the challenges come. And I used to think, well, that's so unfair. I'll just, be mediocre. So leave me alone. But I've learned that I feel like, for one, it's a grooming period. You are being challenged so that you can be changed, so that you can grow, so that you can receive everything that you want. And also, sometimes you're not in a position to even get what you've asked for in the first place. And that's part of the process as well. I've thought about, somebody said, I think it was on a podcast, and they said, everyone says they want $1 million. Everyone wants to be a millionaire. What are you spending that money on? And I was like, oh my God. I've never
You
thought
mean
that
to
far.
get to the million or after you got the million?
After you got the million, what do you want $1 million for? And you just realize, I don't know, it's just this random number I've come up with.
I know how much is in mine, but okay.
I know now. I did the math. No, I did the math now. But it was also, and when you make $1 million, you have $1 million problems. Also, you can make it, but do you net it? Because your expenses and your revenue scale equally.
And taxes. Don't forget taxes, people.
Everything. And it was just like, if you got $1 million, going back to that mindset, that's why so many people win the lottery and they go right back to being broke. Your mindset didn't change just because your money did. And you'll always, revert back to what you really believe. So in a lot of ways, sometimes I feel like things come up against you, right? When you want to change your life, / you want to change your life. There's a reason you don't have what you want to have. You got to now be the person that would have those things. And that means you can no longer be who you are. And that's when your foundation, your world has to look different, and you have to go through changes, and you got to ask the right questions.
Yes,
so that's
there.
And that's why I think sometimes, like, it feels so unfair, but it's like, remember what you asked for. If you were the person that could have those things, you would be that person. You're becoming her. And she doesn't get to sleep late, or she doesn't get to skip these days, or whatever. So there's a little bit of that as well.
I think we've had a really, really great discussion, because in some of my circles, purpose is only related to Bible and religion. Some of my circles is related to how you can monetize it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I know my purpose is to help people, and I don't monetize that. I help people all the time doing stuff that I don't post on social media. That's a totally different podcast episode. People helping, and then you post it. You post it online. But I monetize my skills. I'm great at writing. Love to write. So that's why I blog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very good at looking at the details of things. That's why I can tell you you're going to have a problem in 2 weeks, because I can already see it. So I monetize my skills.
Mm-hmm.
My purpose of helping people, my skills allow me to do that, because it funds that.
Right.
And someone told me, they were like, sometimes you need funds for your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I'm out of alignment and I'm doing all this other stuff for other people, then I'm actually not doing my purpose, which is helping the people that I'm meant to help. Right. And so I've been checking if there were any questions, or if you have any questions, you can let us know. If not, I think I read everything that was kind of commented. I know several people said hi on there. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, what we're going to do is what I call the final toast. And so this is our takeaway from the conversation. So this is what our last statement, something we gleaned from this conversation that we want you to kind of walk away from. So, Erin, what will your final toast be?
I think it would be that your purpose is something that is fluid. It will change as you change, as your awareness changes. You have to be open to that, and also be open to knowing that you might be a little exhausted from it. It's your baby, and it's no different than having a child. There's a lot that you're going to love and a lot that you would rather do without, but it's no less valuable and meaningful to you, and it's no less yours, uniquely yours.
My final toast would be to allow people to run into the brick wall. Because if I allow people to run into the brick wall, I'm not exhausted from preventing them from running into the brick wall, and that will allow me to stay in alignment with what I need to do. So Thank you. This is my first live recording on my podcast, and thank you so much for Erin Creeks for being the guest co-host. This has been a Toast to Truth with me, Bernetta Freeney, and my guest co-host, Erin Creeks. This was a special episode, and we talked about the consequences we've encountered, things that we have gone through. As we talked about, my purpose is exhausting. To get the show notes, please go to BernettaRFreeney.com/category/podcast. And for those who are watching live, thank you so much for your comments. If I missed anything, I'll come back and type in a comment. But thank you guys for watching. And this will probably be my last episode for 2019. So, listen to this as many times as you need to, because we're ending a decade. I had to argue with someone on Twitter telling me that next year was the last year of the decade. I'm like, did we miss kindergarten math? Anyway, this is the last episode. We are about 2.5 months left in 2019. If nothing else, rewatch this, because knowing your purpose going into a new year and a new decade will definitely set you apart, and it will help you kind of ease into the uncomfortable in your life. All right, we will see you later.